This is the button. So say on client click equal to something. Return function name, open bracket, close bracket, semicolon. Okay. Now go to the function and see what we can do for the validations. If you are applying both side validation, it is always secure. Client side as well as server side. Why so? Because as I have told you, JavaScript, if somebody wants, he can disable from the browser also. So if JavaScript is disabled, then obviously, it is as if there is no validation. That's why we give validation in the client side so that 99% users who are really users, they will enjoy. They no need to go again and again to server side and come back to see the message and so on. But that 1% user who are not really real users, but they came to application for something to inject or something negativity like hacking and all. For those guys, because we know that those guys will first go to browser and disable JavaScript. Okay, so assuming even though we are writing JavaScript, that will not work if front person is going to disable in the browser. That's why same validation what we are going to apply in this ASPX, you have to apply in the .cs also. Already we have applied in .cs, same we have to apply in the client side also. 2 to 3 things I will show you. And important thing what you have to learn there is how to control don't go to server or go to server. Repeating again, don't go to server or go to server. That means if you have 10 elements to validate, if even one element is invalid, I have to write the logic in JavaScript so that it should not go to the server. Request should not complete. Forget about response. Request also should not complete, should not proceed. It should be there in the browser. If all 10 to 10 items is correct, then only it should take me to the server side code. That is what the additional things we have to focus more. Otherwise, all other things is if else, if else, if else only. So come here and use same if else condition. I have asked you guys to practice same C# programs in JavaScript. Okay, I don't see anybody asking me any challenge, so I assume you guys all practiced and everybody is success in practice. So whichever work, whichever days I'm giving, that day itself you do it. Okay, otherwise you will be untouched with the things. Every day new things will come to the table. So you should not, ignore anything that I'm giving as homework. So those are all for practice purpose I gave. No need to share with me that I wrote this JavaScript, that JavaScript. All of you are matured. So only if challenge, you share with me. If there is no challenge, it's okay. You can carry on. So coming here, what we have done for user ID, 6 to 15 character, right? You can copy paste this also, no problem. Just change this LPL something, some syntactical difference. Otherwise, 90% syntax is similar. So coming here, and I want to say if less than 6 or more than 15, it is invalid. So first of all, you have to collect the data. Who can help me to collect the data from user ID? We have discussed about it. Suppose my text box is here. I want to collect whatever user typed in this text box. What should I do?
Document dot get element by ID, I guess.
Very good. Very good. So where UID equal to document object. So dot get element by ID. If it is jQuery syntax, then dollar. If it is custom JavaScript syntax, then document dot get element by ID. I'll tell you similar work in jQuery syntax also, but little later, not now. Everything at a time will not do. In MVC, I will tell you how to use jQuery syntax. So here it is custom JavaScript syntax. In fact, jQuery is also JavaScript functions only, but inbuilt functions made by already Microsoft. We are just using it. So document.get element by ID within double quote, ID of that particular text box. So txt user ID dot value. All right. Next what? If user ID dot length same as our C#, less than 6 or more than 15. It should not be like different validation in client side and different validation in server side. It should not be, right? Sentence wise also it should be same. So I copy this sentence and I will say here, alert. Same sentence, I'll paste it here. And then what? Is valid equal to false. That is more important. Simple if condition you also know, but managing go to server or not go to server, that is important here. So if I say is valid equal to false, that means at the end of the condition, somewhere it will get is valid equal to false. So only invalidity I am checking. If it's not going inside the condition, I will assume that that item is a valid item, isn't it? Why should I give else here? There I am giving else. Why? Because I have some activity in the else part. Okay, I have to collect it. Here I have already collected. Even I am not going to return also to anywhere. I am already in the browser. Okay, so you have to feel that. Whatever I am writing here, you have to feel that I am here in the browser. This program will be executed in the browser. So nowhere to return. But here, you have to return. Because you have already reached to the server. Unless you write this return statement, it will not go to the client and render the error message, whatever it is. So no need to write here return. Just say is valid equal to false. Make sense? Any question? Similarly, we can go for other stuff also. Else. If. Why I said else actually? Because only if user ID is correct, then only I am going to check password. If user ID itself is incorrect, I will first ask user to correct the user ID and then I will ask him to proceed forward. Something like that. So, else if count to password. In fact, if you will not write else also, it's okay because it's only invalid things we are checking, right? So you write else if, that is also fine. If you write simply if, that is also fine. But the operational difference is, if you are writing else if, at any moment of time, only one message user will get. Isn't it? I click the submit button. If I have 5 invalid items also, I will get very first message on the screen. After correcting that only, it will give me information about the second or third or so on. But if I am writing simply if, without connecting both of them, then independently check user ID also, independently check password also, and it will display different messages Or if you want, you can do one thing. You can concatenate all the messages into single string, and HTML at the end, you can write one generic message like below are the invalid items, and that concatenated string you can display below. So like this, time to time you have to little think user friendliness. Otherwise 5 alert will come now. 5 invalid means 5 alert will come. User will be not feeling good. Hey, I'm clicking OK. Again, one more message is coming. I'm clicking OK. One more message is coming. Can't you show it in a single text box, single alert box? That you can think also, right? How? Tell me how to do that. Take one variable like this. Variable, some error message kind of thing. Initially, I gave some blank error message. And every time what I will do, I will say something like this. ERR MSG plus equal to this. Okay. Plus equal to you have already understood in C#, right? And I told you operators, conditions, loops, 99.99% same. So you can use it. But I'll tell you one thing. Some browser, little old browsers, which are not updated one, like Internet Explorer and so on. Some browsers, they don't support some of the commands, and this is one of them. So I will suggest you to do like this. If you want to make it all browser compatibility, I think Mozilla few versions they don't support, and Internet Explorer maximum versions they don't support. So simply you say equal to ERR MSG plus this. This will support by every browser. This is from the experience. Okay. Nothing like international standard. So they also don't officially say we don't support, but it is from experience. Some of the browser they don't support. So better to write this. Sometimes they will support in string, but they will not support in numeric stuff. Okay. So some problems are there in the old browsers, but new browser like Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, etc., they will definitely support plus equal to all the complicated operations also. So let's do this like this. That's why I put double quote here, open double quote, close double quote, so that here it will not say undefined, you are concatenating with the sentence. Okay. Similarly, I will put few more conditions below. Say password should be equal to retype password. So let's collect the password where pwd equal to same document by get by element by id of whatever. Let me copy and paste txt pwd. This semicolon is optional. This is retype password. I have problem if not equal. So I will write for not equal. If it is equal, I don't have any problem. Okay, so I don't need to write equal to condition. So I said pwd not equal to repwd, I have problem. So I have to say same thing again like this. In fact, if you are concatenating messages like this, I will suggest you do like this. Following fields are invalid, something like that. Okay. Give a line break, and here you say user ID, because suppose 10 items you are concatenating, it's difficult if you'll give 10 different sentences, right? Possible, not impossible, but little lengthy. So better to write following fields are invalid, and go on concatenating which fields. If you want to separate by comma, that comma separate logic also you can apply. Intentionally, I am making it little complicated so that you will start facing complicacy. Okay. Always straightforward things you should not do. Sometimes your user will expect in such a way, obviously you have to face complicacy. Suppose he says, okay, I want comma separated field names, user ID, comma password, comma this, comma that, etc. So what you will do? Here you have to use again nested if condition. Okay. So at least for one condition, let me put that just to know how logic is made for that. So I will say if this one, which one? Error message. Because I am not sure user ID will be invalid. May be invalid, may not be invalid. Na? How can I assure that comma will be given or comma will not be given? Right? So I will say if error message something like this. Assuming my very first invalidity item from the top to bottom is this, and something user ID will be kept here. That means if it is having some content, in fact, you can keep it at the top also, doesn't matter. Imagine your user ID is not a mistake. Then first item will be this one. So keep this sentence at the top and write here, if error message is not equal to null, it will never be null because it is already written here. So you put a comma and display it. Or you can go for one variable like var fields equal to simply blank at the beginning, and you check that field here. If by chance this field is blank, if this field equal to blank, I will say, okay, that means I will assume user ID definitely valid. This is the first invalid item. So I checked if fields equal to blank as of now. So here I gave fields equal to user ID. Okay. If fields is blank as of now, then simply say fields equal to password. Since I'm checking retype password, I can type here retype password. Okay, time to time like this, you have to little think and change your logics based on the requirement. So I change the requirement that separate sentence I want following fields are invalid, and below that separate sentence I want this field. So first I said user ID. By chance user ID is perfectly fine. Then it will come here and see fields is still blank. It will give the fields equal to simply retype password. Else I will say fields equal to whatever fields available plus put a comma and then concatenate with retype password. Program is in front of you. A requirement you understood. So just validate yourself about the understanding level. So why I gave here nested if I could not have given, then what could be the issue and so on. You have to cross verify yourself whether the understanding is correct or not. Whatever it is, whether internal if first one will execute or second one will execute, but I'm dead sure password is not equal to retype password. That's why it came here. So it is obvious that I have to write is valid equal to false. Write that here. Do you need this message now? No need, because our intention is concatenating fields with comma separated string.
Yes. Can you explain again? No.
Which part of the program?
The nested if right here.
So here what we are checking? Password and retype password, right? If not equal, then we are coming here and we are checking if field is still blank. That means user ID is not really invalid. Then only field will be blank. Don't you think so? Because in line number 26, you have blank. Open double quote, close double quote. That means you are tracking whether really before this something is invalid or not. If something is invalid, definitely fields will be having not blank. Are you with me?
Yes, I got it now. So it is.
Yeah, if still blank, then simply store it. If not a blank,
then
whatever there, put a comma and store this.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Again, is valid false? Of course, because anytime, anywhere it is coming inside the first if condition, then is valid false. Because I have to track at the end whether to visit to server or not to visit to server. Let's plan one more. Some other. Okay. So we can plan for anything that we have applied in the server side. Drop down radio button, what to say, checkbox list. These are a very simple validation because you are not typing there. You are just selecting. So dot value equal to blank. Simply go ahead and display the message. But editors, whether password, address, where people are typing the data, those are more important. So drop down and all, simply you have to say dot value equal to null. That means suppose you have not selected the drop down. Okay, imagine somebody didn't select the drop down. That means your ID, DRP country, dot value, if you will collect, it will be blank. Or if you might have given zero index like select SELECT, then it will be SELECT. So very simple, you have to say if DRP country, document.get element by ID of DRP country dot value, whatever. Suppose you stored in X. Now just say if X equal to select, SELECT. That means you understand he has not selected. That's why SELECT is there still on the screen. But you must write dot value. If you are writing dot text, then you must check with this. So that is about this thing. So everywhere you get text value, text value, text value for radio button, drop down and checkbox list. So hardly in this kind of items, what validation may come? You are bound to select validation may come. At least one should be selected. Apart from that, it never comes anything. You have full rights of selecting India also, full rights of selecting Sri Lanka also. Nobody can restrict you. But not selecting anything, that is one invalid item. So for drop down, radio button, checkbox list, similar only. If whatever X or Y or where you stored the data, if X equal to select, in case of drop down you can check. In case of gender, you can say if whatever Y, suppose you are storing in Y, I assume where Y equal to document.get element ID by of this dot value. So simply you check, because you have not selected any one of these, that means it will be blank. So if Y equal to null, not selecting means that Y will be null. Like that you can check. Here also same in the checkbox list, document.get element by ID of CHKLST language. Now imagine nothing has been selected. Then obviously this ID will be blank. So first you collect the value from this ID, store in a variable, and then say, if that is null, then apply this so and so message. Address, it's again a text box. Already text box we have applied, user ID, password, etc. Email ID, it's also text box. This is also text box. So text box already we applied. Checkbox, suppose checkbox, this one. Single checkbox, okay. So C# will get a return true, return false from here. But your JavaScript doesn't play that way. It is again saying selected means 1, not selected means 0. And some browser says selected means not null and not selected means null. So what you have to do, because these two variety only, true, false, 0, 1, null, not null. So you have to apply all three with OR condition. Remember, because browser compatibility also something you have to look for. So 0, 1, null, not null, true, false. So imagine you are checking invalidity. Invalidity always you check in the client side validation so that it will not go to the server. We don't check validity, we check invalidity. To make you clear, I am coming up. So here we are not checking validation, we are checking invalidity. If less than 6 I checked. I didn't say greater than 6 and less than 15. I said less than 6 or greater than 15. So that kind of logic you have to apply. So for checkbox particularly, invalidity means false, 0, null, separated by OR operator. If any one of these three, then say invalid. Okay, so like this, for various controls you can apply the validations. How many ever you apply the validation, you must maintain this is valid, false, 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 false. Okay. Extremely at the top, you make it as true. That means 1 is invalid, form is invalid. That is what we want to track. At the end of this, you have to write return is valid. Return true or return false. Imagine everything is correct from top to bottom. Then this one will be there only, right? Is valid equal to true. No coding will be executed, internal coding. That means till end of this function is valid is still true. So it will return true from here. So in this button, the full sentence will be return space true, semicolon. All right, so accordingly it will decide whether to go to the server or not to go to the server. So let's run it and see whether it is behaving how we are expecting it to behave. So I have put a breakpoint here. jQuery syntax we will be learning in MVC directly, because JavaScript, once you start jQuery syntax, you will not prefer custom JavaScript syntax, and some benefit is also there in jQuery syntax. One-time compilation, keeping in the document object. So those kind of things I will tell you some techniques in jQuery. So, but okay, JavaScript also you should know, because jQuery is nothing but JavaScript only. Only difference is here we are writing the program. There they might have already kept the hundreds, thousands of libraries, functions. We have to just use it. So those library function is made in JavaScript only, guys, and jQuery. So jQuery is a library of JavaScript.
Oh, so is it easy to use the jQuery than these ones?
You can write JavaScript also inside jQuery syntax. That's why it is important to know JavaScript also. But like in C#, we have lot of inbuilt functionalities, right? Similarly, they have defined lot of thousands of functionality using JavaScript, of course, and those functions they have kept in the library. So, like for example, any functionality which you are also writing, I am also writing, every developer writing, they closely observed that and they said, hey, why you guys all are putting efforts? We are putting that functionality in the jQuery library. That is nothing but JavaScript coding only. You just need to call that function, so that in one line, at least 10 line things has been done automatically. So why unnecessary? All of you will put the efforts. Like that, they prepared one jQuery library. That is nothing but JavaScript only, named as jQuery, but the internal functionality when you go and see, that is JavaScript coding only. So we have to just remember those function names and you have to call that. Okay. So here, since our motto is to make the project in MVC, so I will not proceed more in web form. Most important things we already did. If somebody will give you one small module to develop in web form also, you can easily develop now. So I don't want to spend much more time in web form. Apart from one more important thing is there called state management, that also will cover, and then we will switch to MVC. So come here and see what we have written validation. In the click of the save button, it is working or not. User ID, I put only 2 characters. Password, I think we have taken 6, similar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here I said simply 1, 2, 3, 4. Only for these 3 text boxes we have applied it, right? The moment I am clicking outside, this star is coming. Okay, forget it. Because I assume that either that or this. One screen will not have everything. For sake of learning, I am putting everything in the same page. Otherwise, this star will not come. Okay, that star is for validation summary and invalidity in the custom validator. Not custom validator, I think compare validator. So forget it. Assume that it's not there. So I click on submit. Save button. So expectation is, it should say following things are okay. We have missed one thing. Who can say what we missed?
Return at the very end.
Return something. Return already we have.
In the function.
It's there. Return is valid.
Sir, on same we should call the
alert we missed.
Alert we missed, yes. Isn't it? Because it will not show anything now. From top to bottom, nothing is there. So we are going on concatenating this error message for what purpose? fields for what purpose? You have to show one alert message, right? So come here and write that. So I will say alert, that too with an if condition only. Why should I simply display one alert? Who knows everything is valid, isn't it? So I will say if fields not equal to null. Make sense? Then only alert, na? Not equal to null, I will not write. I have written initialize as blank, so I will write blank. Okay? Make sense? Because I have initialized the blank at the beginning. Blank and null difference, guys. Null means nothing. Blank means explicitly giving open double quote, close double quote. So I said if it is blank, not equal to blank, that means I assume at least one field is invalid. Are you with me? Now here, inside this condition, I will say alert. What? If you have already written this, you concatenate this. If you might not have written, then you hard code this. So I will just concatenate both of this thing. If you want, you can put a colon like this. Okay, and then concatenate fields. If you want little small sentence, you can write there. I might have written little bigger sentence. I will write invalid fields are, as small as possible you can do. Okay, so invalid fields are so and so. So let's run it. I saved it and I will refresh it.
So also on save button, we are calling client side validation, right? It's a function.
Correct.
Okay.
On client click equal to that. Sorry, I stopped it. So run it again. So these kind of things, how much you will implement in real-time practice, that is, currently when you see these kind of things, sometimes, you will feel it little easy, but applying these things, not that easy, little bit you have to work on this area.
But here, you work in web forms. I see that you work more with tables and the front side. So, but in MVC, we're going to use classes, right?
Here also you can use. That is all style sheet. So anywhere you can use. It's not specific to only MVC. You are talking about classes, style sheet classes, right? Or something else you are asking? I'm not hearing you. Okay, so I'm clicking on the save button. So I'm expecting two sentences to be merged together. Okay. Invalid fields are so and so. You can see a comma in between. For that comma only, I wrote that nested if condition. And most important thing is, when I will say okay, it is not requesting to the server. Okay, I have put a breakpoint here in the server side code. It is not going to the server side, which is good thing. And if everything is valid, I expect it should go to the server. So let's have a look. Let's put everything correctly. Eight characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Selected something. selected some address, minimum 20 characters we have given, email, one valid email address we have given, format of email, age we have given, I think 22 something, 35 or so, agreement we have given, it should be selected. So all things are valid, suppose. Now I'm clicking on the save button. So our expectation is this time also it should check all the JavaScript coding, but since it will get everything valid, I'm expecting it should take me to the server side, right? So let's click on this and see it is coming to the server side. That means everything valid, then it will collect whatever the data and it will proceed further. If client side it is everything valid, obviously in server side also it will be valid, right? Do you think expect one error message from server side now? No. Because same validation we might have applied in both the areas. So it will never, performance point of view, 2-3 extra millisecond may go. No worry. 2-3 extra millisecond, not second. It's manageable if something security you are getting. So I'm dead sure if everything is valid in the client side, in server side, it will always come to else part, and so on, and it will never go to error message and return. Because if it is so, then it could have been found out by client side also. Then why you are keeping this? Because 1% we assume that one or more user may there who will disable JavaScript intentionally in the browser level and try to put some invalid item on the screen. Then in that case, straight away it will come to server or not without checking JavaScript validation because they might have disabled it in the browser. So in that case, at least my server side code should be there to help me some error message with a return statement. Okay. Other things you know already, ADO.NET stuff and all, after collection of the data, how to save, how to, display the message and so on. Yep.
For security reason, they are maintaining server-side scripting also.
Yeah, that is what. Because browser, you cannot trust to user that he will not disable browser JavaScript in browser. It is full freedom, you can go to your browser and disable JavaScript, right? Because JavaScript always runs in the browser level. So if you have already disabled activate control, JavaScript, many things, cookies, then probably those kind of features will not work, right? So you have to be careful for that. So somebody should not inject any invalid items.
Okay.
That's why you should have the server-side validations as well.
So server-side scripting is also mandatory, huh?
Not mandatory, but good practice.
Good practice.
Almost all real-time project you will see both side validations.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if it's appropriate. But how do you disable? I know it's not part of the class, but how do you disable those server sides and then get?
Not server side. I'm saying about browser scripting.
Okay.
Client side.
Client side.
Client side. Okay.
Yeah, if you go to browser, some option settings or so on, if you'll see every browser little different way they give it, but okay, there will be some option to disable the JavaScript.
Okay.
So those kind of things you have to be careful, otherwise easily somebody can inject some cross scripting and all. Directly they will send it to the database, and in database it will behave like a wrong command and they will destroy your data. Okay.
Sir, also
Kumar, I have one more clarification. So, can we restrict by coding browser disable? You said no. Can we restrict by through coding also? Browser
Restrict
browser
means
disable.
see, restricting JavaScript or permitting JavaScript you want to do by coding?
No, restricting. So we can write a code by browser restricting.
I think you are asking permitting. If somebody has restricted activating JavaScript on the runtime.
Yes.
That makes sense, because why unnecessary you will restrict JavaScript.
Okay.
So in MVC we can do that, because some of the MVC features are strictly using client-side scripting. But as far as your web form is concerned, you can do little complications you have to face.
Okay.
But in MVC, since everything written in client-side itself, that will execute also in client-side. Mostly some C# library also will execute there. That is called Razor Engine concept. So there you have some option to temporarily activate it, and then automatically it will come to the real stage after your page will be executed. Okay.
Sir, also on online, like I read, like even hackers can disable this C# validation and pass the value directly to the database, and it's good practice to add validation on database end as well. Is that right?
No. See, putting validation in database, I agree, that is good, because chances are those functionalities or stored procedure you might be calling from some external vendor or some other area. But saying that somebody sitting in browser, he can disable my C#, no, it's not acceptable.
No, like Fiddler or something, getting the proper URL and appending some wrong value, something like that.
True, that wrong value will come to your C#. That is for sure. But C# is there to validate it, right?
Okay. Any point, like it comes to C#, right, sir?
Correct. But disabling C#, like disabling JavaScript, it is not possible.
Not possible. Okay.
No, but if you apply validation in the class, that's one too is safer than doing it in the front end.
Which class we are talking about?
Like if you just like a class, let's say class employee.
C# class? C# class?
Yeah, C#.
No problem. Same thing only. Server-side validation. That is also server-side validation. Okay. So somehow you should filter it in C# level, regardless you have in the client side or not. Better to have both, so that how many percentage of your users are really negative users? 1% hardly. 99% users are suffering if you will not have client-side scripting. That's why you do both, so that real users will enjoy seeing the messages then and there in the browser level. And those users who are not real or maybe real but negative users, so those kind of people, let them enter, and your C# is there to protect it. Okay. SQL injection, which will be, easily injectable if your best practice has not been followed up. In database connectivity also, I told you one point. When you define the command, that time you should not write the query then and there. Where is that? Somewhere I might have written the query, right? If agree, then connection open and so on. Where is SQL command? I think we have written at the top of the thing. Have a look, this line number 56. Okay, so this is also one sensitive area. You should not write directly inline query, select tab from something or so on.
It's connected architecture.
No. I mean, regardless connected or disconnected, we use stored procedure, right?
Yep.
So what I mean to say, instead of stored procedure, you should not write direct query like this, insert into, table name, user details. You write it in one page. If I will come to know, you give me 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes you go to your database, you will not see even a single record in your database. Okay, so this much sensitive this is. never
Are
to
you talking about SQL injection?
SQL injection. That's what. Okay. They can inject any sensitive query, and you are gone. Just think. It not even 30 minutes, 5 minutes. Suppose you have here something. Let's say insert into. Right now, I can show you how they can inject it. Better to know a little bit. These are all ethical hacking concept actually. Suppose you have written something like this: insert into something, whatever, user details. I don't know. This is regarding user details only. Yeah, user details. This is your table name, and then you did it like something like this. Values, whatever it is, something like you wrote x comma y comma. I assume that this x or y came from text box only, or sometimes you wrote like this also. Start a bracket, then put one plus, then write txt user id dot text, so that directly text box data will come and sit here, and then plus again, put a comma, okay, again plus, again, txt something, let's say password, txt password. So 1 or 2 I'm writing, you understand that like this you might have written all. I'm showing you, this is not today's topic actually, it is just one, because you showed interest in best practices, so I'm just telling one important point to protect your code from the SQL injection. So suppose somebody might have written inline query, then obviously he will write like this, don't you think so? So like this, so and so forth, he will go on writing, text user ID, password, country, etc. Imagine your syntax is like this, and at last you might have written like this, bracket close. Okay. Now, you are in the text box. Okay. Suppose you are in the text box. You are entering the data. Suppose your text box is user ID. Okay. In user ID, what I will do, instead of typing my user ID like ABC123, okay, imagine this is the user ID, I will type directly like this. First I will put a semicolon. Okay, then I will say delete from user details. Then I will put another semicolon. After that I will write whatever user ID. Let's say U12345. Imagine this is the text box and I typed here like this. Okay. So exactly this thing came from text box, and it will sit here now. Somewhere here, don't you think so? Simply it came from there and sit here. Finally, it will be something like this. It will be something like this, and I have not written fully command, that's why it is showing this error. So if you'll give proper things, let me close here itself. Other things you can do it later. One extra double quote is there. Yeah. So something like this, it came. Logically, I didn't type it here, but I collected it from the text box. Since text box user ID was there, so logically saying this content will come from text box and sit it here or not. Similarly, password, suppose you have typed ABC1234, then full sentence will be ABC1234. That means after collection of the data, your query will look like this or not. Now this will be executed. Now you execute this and see what happens. First it will show a small error message for this part of the query. Okay?
Okay, so,
then it will execute this. Then it will show a small error message for this part of the query. That's it. With 2 error message, nicely it will do this operation and it will go. So your user detail is gone. That means somebody injected from text box, instead of a valid user ID, he injected a valid command. So 10 times he tried, one time clicked and gone your data. Okay, so that is called SQL injection, guys. So most of hacking is done through SQL injection if you have database connectivity. So be careful. Whatever best practices I'm suggesting, you should follow those. So let me put that stored procedure again. I don't know. I'm just writing SP. You will replace it. I don't remember what was the stored procedure. I think something like insert user data or so. It may be wrong. You will cross validate. Okay. So
One thing, sir.
yeah.
Sir, the inquiry, inline query, whatever we written previously with this. So you use semicolon. So usually in SQL, semicolon is optional. If you use semicolon, it reads as a new SQL statement, right, sir?
Correct.
Okay. And also, sir, like first statement, anyways, it will give error, right?
Mm.
So if you're not using go statement, it will not execute the next statement, right? It will skip the other below statements, right?
Nothing like that.
Okay.
You would write 3-4 lines separated by semicolon. It will execute all of them.
Okay.
Go is optional.
Yeah.
So I have a question about the hacking stuff. So how did you determine that that's the right command for getting that information? That's the part I was interested to know. How did
Google.
you?
This is not hacking class. I said something from ethical hacking. So
Okay, I'm sorry.
we will not waste time behind learning hacking. Ethical hacking is different than hacking. Ethical hacking is how to use the best practices in our coding. So those things, unlimited questions. You can Google, you can search, and you can learn. But here, you should know how to protect our code from people to inject something and so on. All right, so let's stop the class here. I was thinking to start state management, but it's already late. So next class, okay, I can start it in fact. 10 minutes we have. State management, there is a topic next to this. So let me at least start the concept. We'll proceed it later. This one is necessary. Oh, this is not for you. I think this is about
Don't you normally save it in October? You're saving it in September.
it's not yours actually. By mistake it was opened.
Sorry.
Yeah, state management we are talking about. So little bit concept we'll discuss and practically we'll continue next class. State management. So there are two things, state and behavior behind every functionality. Okay. So state and behavior. Suppose you are declaring a variable also, there is a state behind that variable and there is some behavior behind that variable. So say it as function, say it as variable, say it as property, say it as anything. So every element in programming world, they have one state and one behavior. What is that? When you say behavior, the way its activity is all about. Like you said, my variable is integer. Then I will say its behavior is to store numeric value. You said I have a function, it is taking input as marks and giving grade as output. Then the behavior becomes finding the grade, functionality, data type, way it works. Those are all called behavior. Okay. How does that behave? That is called behavior. But state means up to what extent it can be accessible. Remember, state means up to what extent the element can be accessible. What do you mean? Imagine you are inside a program. This is about the behavior or about functionality, format, action, result, etc. State. So today's topic is more about the state. So up to what extent the element is accessible. Imagine you are in C#. Okay. Simple console application. Here you started main. I'm not writing fully programmed, just skeletal structure. Inside main program, you have one if condition here. Okay. Inside this if condition, you might be having a loop here. Now, common understanding is, as per my declaration area, my variable will be, accessible. Suppose I wrote here something like integer k, I gave 100. This will be not only available to entire function outside, but also inside if condition as well as inside for loop. Okay. But same integer k equal to 100 I declare somewhere here. Behavior is still same. K is numeric, k has stored 100. If I'll display k, it will give me 100. So those are all behaviors. But the state is different now. I must say the state of k is accessible inside if as well as accessible inside for, but not accessible below if. Suppose I will try to display k here, it will not be accessible because I declared it temporarily inside the if block. Those kind of knowledge about any element, we say it as state. Okay, up to what extent the element can be accessible. So combined together, both of them will tell whether you can use that or you cannot use that. If state is available but behavior is different, your return type is string but that function unfortunately returning boolean, then also you cannot access it. Okay, so state and behavior both combined together gives one complete functionality. Today we are talking about state, more about state. Now come to ASP.NET area. This is the general knowledge I was talking about. This is not specific to any technology like C# or Java or only web form or only MVC or only C#. It is commonly applicable to every technology, every programming language. There is something called state, something called behavior. So more about state in ASP.NET and MVC. So ASP.NET web form and MVC, both we maintain some state as well. There are some states which is only for MVC, not for web form. There are some states which is only for web form, not for MVC. And there are some states which is for both web form as well as MVC. Okay, I will tell you all of them, but currently we are discussing about overall idea. Whatever it is, imagine you are taking view state. View state is applicable in web form, but not applicable in MVC. Imagine you are taking temp data. Temp data is available in MVC, but not available in web form. Imagine you are taking session. Session is available in web form as well as available in MVC. So we are going to learn everything, and that time I will tell you this is applicable for both or applicable for anyone. But overall understanding is, in any web application, whether it is web form, whether it is MVC, whether it is Java, whether it is PHP, any technology, any architecture, any design pattern, any approach, if it is web, one thing is common, that the moment you leave the page, and go to some other first page data will be cleared from the buffer. What do you mean by this? Buffer means it is like server memory, not client memory, server memory. Suppose there is a server, your abclimited.com is deployed in that server. Thousands of people are accessing that website. They are entering something, fetching something. So those data is being stored always in the server. The moment you left this page and went to another page, remember, your server is already having .NET Framework installed there, and .NET Framework is already having automatic garbage collection feature. So it will go and clean the data related to page number 1, because currently we are in page number 2. That is called page expiry. Okay. In technical terminology, we say expiring the page. That's why when you, again go to the refresh of the browser, if by chance that page has been expired, session data, etc. are not available in the server buffer, then suddenly it says your session is expired, you have to re-log in, something like that. Because that user ID might have kept in a state variable, state management variable, and that is expired now. So there is a time limit. Default is 20 minutes. If necessary, you can increase or decrease also. So overall idea is, there is something called page expiry in web application. Same is not applicable in other application. Remember, if you go for Windows application, go for console application, those things is not applicable. You opened a console application today, you come here after 2 days also, the program will be in active stage. But you open one web page today, you come after 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever related data behind that page, if any, might have kept in the server buffer, those definitely might have cleared as per the configurational setup of expiry time. I will show you when practical will do where to go and put the expiry time of the page automatically if somebody is not doing anything. But if you're doing also, suppose you are typing in that page and you are submitting that page after typing, then also that page gets expired only. Okay. One more page comes and sits in front of you. That previous page has gone to back button. It is no more current page, it is in history only. Imagine you are in the same page only. You submitted the button. Have you observed this? You filled the data, you submitted the button. Same page is there in front of you, but suddenly back button activated. Why so? Because previous version of the page where you entered the data, that has gone to history or back button. Currently what you see is maybe the same page name, but it's a different version, different rendering. of the same page. So then these are all problems then. If my related data is getting expired, then obviously it is a problem. So how to resolve this kind of problem? State management is the solution to resolve this problem. For example, somebody says, I entered from login page. I am supposed to go to inbox page. Right? Understand the scenario. I came from login page. I am supposed to go to inbox page. In login page only I entered user ID. But in inbox page also I need that user ID or not? Then only based on that user ID it will fetch and display the emails, right? Otherwise everybody will see everybody's email. That means obviously I need to access that user ID data from my login page to my inbox page. Don't you think so? Otherwise, the moment you will reach to inbox page, again it will ask, hey, can you please give me user ID? I forgot it. So somebody there should remember that user ID from login page to inbox page. Because the moment you reach to inbox page, your login page is fully expired. It is no more current page, it is history page. If you click on back button also, again it will cycle it and ask you, enter your user ID. So user ID entered in login page, I want to use that in my inbox page or further pages. Like you are going to inbox of your Gmail. One time it asked you, but every time you are going to Google Drive, going to inbox, going to some other feature, does it ask? No. Then from where it is taking? Your actual login page has been expired already 5 minutes back. You have already reached to Google Drive and inbox, etc. So from where it is collecting that user ID then? From state variable. Okay. So this is the quick understanding behind the state. Every web technology, once you leave the page and go into some other page, your page will be expired. Page will be expired indicates all data whichever stored in the server buffer related to that page. Like I typed user ID, I typed password, I typed something, I typed some other thing. So those things usually saved in the server buffer, those will be completely destroyed. It will be cleaned up by the automatic garbage collection. So to retain those data, as per the necessity, we use a thing called state management. And the element which is helping us to store and reserve those data for future use, those are called state variable. The concept is called state management. And that element which is helping us to store the data for future use is called state variable. S-T-A-T, state variable. Okay. So this is the theoretical concept behind this. And types of state management, we can say majorly two. One is server side states and one is client side states. Nothing rocket science to understand this category. Actually, I just told you one element will help us to keep that data instead of expanding that data. So that element, if you are storing in the client's computer means the computer where user is sitting, then that is called client side state. That means the moment I will visit to second page, please pick that data from the client's computer, client's random access memory, client's browser, client's hard disk. Got it? Those kind of elements helping in state management is called client side states. Server side state, suppose your element is very secure element. Can I store temporarily password in the client's machine so that I can use it in second page? Can I do that? No. You will definitely say no to me. Because password is a sensitive element. How can I take a client's computer's help to store it there? They can run one tool in the background and they can collect and misuse my password. So I will never suggest that. go for client-side state for reserving or storing password, OTP, net banking, customer ID, key and all in something called client-side state. So that means any element that you don't need security, My city name, what's a big deal? Why should I keep it so secret? If I'll keep it in the client-side machine also, it's okay. Rather, it will be faster than storing into the server. Because if you are keeping in the server buffer, to store also once you visit to server, to collect in second page also once you have to visit to server. Performance little poor, but security is better. So let me write that point here. So security, we will get better, but performance will be little, it's not like 2 minutes, 3 minutes performance late or 2 seconds, 3 seconds, it will be in microsecond. That's why I'm writing little performance will be little less comparing client side state. Okay, so technical difference between client side state and server side state. When somebody can think to reserve that data to be used in future pages or maybe in same page only after clicking the button in the client machine, or which situation should I prefer to save that data to be reused in future for same page as well as other pages in server machine, server buffer. So based on the security. Security is important, guys. Performance is not that important in this case, because you will not say anybody takes my password, I don't bother. My application is running fast. Will you say that? No, right? Anybody is hacking my password from the client machine, I don't bother. My performance is better, so I used client-side state for storing the password. Obviously, will not say that. So security is very less, I will say. Not even little, I will use the word. Very less, but the performance is little better comparing to server-side states. Now definitely question mark might be coming, how to use them? What are all coming under server side and what are all coming under client side? So there are two things coming under server side, guys. One is called session, one is called application. We will not go in detail of this today. We are already a little late, but just for conceptual understanding, I started it up so that next class, when we will start, directly you can start it in Visual Studio, writing some pages and all that. Client-side states are like this: query string. Those who prefer to explore little before the class, for them it is good. I'll tell you, in web, not only in web form, in MVC, web form, even any architecture you will be learning in future. If you say entirely web as a learning session, let's say full 3 months course you are learning web. If somebody will ask me entire this learning web industry, web technology, what is the most important concept to understand? Is state management. Okay. So when you were learning C#, that time I was mentioning some 2-3 chapters like interface, generic collection, etc. Here, even more than that, I am focusing because C# is just a programming language, right? For entire course, what we are learning is web, including database, programming language, interface like your ASP.NET or web form or MVC. So whole technology, why you are learning? To develop some real-time project. So during real-time project development, if there is something most important to keep it in mind, it is state management. Because all best practices start from state management only. You have to closely understand which state is for what, where should be kept the data, where should we use the data, and so on. Because data security is most important point. Query string, hidden field. Okay. There is something called view state. Let me mention, view state is only applicable in web form, not in MVC. Apart from view state, all other things, whatever I'm writing here, they will be applicable in, both web form as well as MVC. So only one point I mentioned, only applicable in web form. All others are applicable in MVC as well, web form as well. But there are something 2 to 3 additional state. Those are all only applicable in MVC. So in this chapter, we will not discuss. When we will go to MVC, there we will discuss view bag, view data, model data, temp data. Some 4 additional things will come in MVC. But these things will also be applicable there. That's why don't ignore, carefully learn, because apart from this view state, all other things will be continued further in MVC architecture as well. Okay, so don't ask me now what is in-depth story behind session, application, and so on. We will discuss it next class. And overall idea you got. If you want to explore a little bit before class, you can explore about these terminologies. Better always to explore little about some important topic when we are going to cover up, so that you can have a lot of question marks in mind and you can get clarified as well. All right.
So one last thing, sir. This state management impacts both security and memory management, right, sir?
Yeah, definitely. That's why both understanding is important. Like I said, city, my city name, if somebody came to know or hacked it also from client machine, I don't bother. But if I will pass my city name from first page to second page, even if I'm getting 2 microsecond benefit also faster, that is good for me. So I will go for city to be transported from page number 1 to page number 2 through query string, or maybe hidden field, or maybe something else, but client side.
Right.
But same thing, if somebody will ask me, hey, you put the user ID in the login page, in the inbox page, you go and display welcome that user ID. So I will never prefer client side state to transport that data from login page to inbox page, because if I will store for 1 minute also in client system, that is security issue. Client system means suppose somebody is accessing in cyber cafe, that cyber cafe computer is the client system. So if you write the programming in such a way that it will take the memory in the client computer, who knows, those guys might have run some, tool so that anything stored in cookie or view state, or that's why cookie is not good. In browser itself, they have given, if you think about security, you can just complete your work, go to cookies, clean your cookies and go home, so that your data will not be accessible to other guys. So because this is client side, okay, so security is most important. First thing you have to think about security of my data. If you think that I don't bother because it's just one city name or country name or state name or father's name, etc., then no problem, go for client. Rather, I will prefer you, I will suggest you to store in the client machine. Why unnecessary will go to server, store it and collect it again from server? Why not in the client machine? But sensitive data, from experience you will come to know. Quickly saying is user ID, password, net banking user ID, customer ID, OTP, any pins and all. So those kind of information you should not plug into any state variable which is in client. Okay.
The one more last thing, sorry. Sir, in the ASPIX page, we used a script tag, right, to call JavaScript function. So usually when it binds, it first loads all the controls to document object model, like when ASPX page loads, right, sir? Like front
True.
end.
True,
So
true.
always it's obviously browser will handle whether we are writing script tag in starting of the form or end of the form, but it's always best practice to write at the end of the form, right, sir?
Nothing like that.
Nothing.
Rather, best practice is right in head area. Okay. Usually, whatever controls, it definitely renders. Loading and rendering both are different.
Okay.
So it renders the controls in the page life cycle. Render comes first. After that, loading comes. You know. So in render part in the page life cycle, there are some sequence of functionality. Pre-init, init, complete.
Correct.
You know. So render comes first. After that, load comes. Na? So the render has been done in render part. That means your ID is already activated for document object model, but not yet loaded to browser. Okay.
Right.
So when it is going to load, first it will load the JavaScript, then it will load the rendered content of your controls. So no problem, na?
Okay.
So whether you keep it in head or keep it in body, doesn't matter.
No, body is fine, but within body, starting of the form tag and ending of the form tag. Because if it's ending of the form tag, all the controls will be loaded in the document object model. In that way, I meant, sir.
No, nothing like that. Actually, from rendering point of view, will tell me, rendering happens first. That means all your controls, what you say, run at equal to server, etc. Those will be already rendered and already available in document object model during rendering part.
Okay.
Now, when you are loading it, whether you load the script at the top or load the script at the bottom, till then already your ID has been converted to HTML ID and rendered it. So it will not say that, hey, you first wrote the text script, then you are writing text box. How will you understand? Nothing like that.
Okay. Right, sir.
So nothing like that. And the script always should be kept in head. That is best practice, because there are some, inbuilt features that it goes to head and search rather than body, like meta and other things. So better to have your script in head area. Script style sheet and all, you should keep always in the head area.
Okay.
All right, so let's meet guys tomorrow.